Hello, my name is Josh, and I'm a watchaholic. Welcome to Horology Insanity.
What is up, my watch friends? So, check this out. Today, I want to take another look at this Hemel HFT20, and I just want to compare it to a bunch of other watches. Now, in my last video, I did kind of a Nada review. I didn't weigh it though. You can see right now it's coming up at 98, 99 grams if you kind of look at it sideways. So right at 100 grams, and that's on the leather. Again, this is the VK64 Mecaquartz version or variant of this, and so not to be confused with the NE88 Seiko automatic chronograph option that they do have. And so I'm guessing the automatic chronograph is going to be a little bit heavier. We're going to weigh some others though, and yeah, what I want to do is just take a look at this Hemel and compare it to some other options, talk about what I like about this, a little bit about what I don't like about it, and then what I do and don't like about those other watches, because when you really get something side by side, that's when you can kind of compare and say, oh, I like this, I don't like that, and really kind of, well, be a little nitpicky about it, right? I mean, especially if you're spending your hard-earned money on this stuff, and you're probably watching this video because you're interested in this watch, and you kind of want to know what you're getting into maybe before you lay down the money. So yeah, hopefully I can help you out there. So let's take a look at this. I don't know if my scale will stay on or not, but let's take a look first at what I think is the most comparable option to this Hemel, and that is going to be this Dryden chronograph. Now let's just set it down on the scale here. You can see that it weighs in at 83 grams, and that's mainly because, I'm guessing, because of this strap. The strap on the Hemel is quite a bit thicker and heftier, and so I'm guessing it's going to weigh a little bit more. But when we look at these two side by side, they have a lot of similarities. So they're both using the Mecaquartz Seiko movement, and they have different aesthetics, but you can see the case and crown are very similar, the pushers. Now I will say one thing you're going to notice, let me get in on this. There's a cross-hatched pattern on this, which I think is pretty cool. Now, this specific one being black, it's DLC coated in black. The stainless steel ones, of course, they're going to be stainless steel, but I'm pretty sure they all have this cross-hatched pattern, and it gives you, I don't know if you can really feel it when you touch it. I don't know if it gives you any extra grip, but it does give you a cool aesthetic, especially when the case is otherwise smooth. Now you'll notice on the Dryden here, it is just a smooth pusher. So that could be an option, pro con, you know, do you like the texture or do you not? It's going to be a personal preference, I suspect. Now with that, the cases are very similar. I think they may even be from the same manufacturer. I don't know, don't quote me on that. The bezel action on both are real similar. The Hemel's a little stiff, but I think it'll loosen up over time. I know most of my other ones, like especially my Seikos, it's going to be as good as all of your normal Seiko bezels, that kind of stuff, and so your divers. But in this case, yeah, they're both good. The QC on the Hemel is as good as the Dryden, and y'all know that I think Jerry does some of the best QC and alignment and whatnot on his watches than anybody that I've seen. And so, and I think that's because he does it personally in Kansas City or something like that. And so I think he gets the watches in and then he puts them together, or he's got somebody, maybe a talented watchmaker doing it, kind of like the guys at Notice doing out in California. They get all the parts in and then they assemble it in California. And so more and more people are doing that. And I think it's cool because I think it gives them the control of what they put in, what they keep out, to make sure everything is the way that they want it to be. Now, I don't know what Hemel is or is not doing, but I can say that in my overall experience, and of this one here, it's a sample size of 1, so it's quite anecdotal, but it's good. It's good. Everything lines up. Everything is clean. You know, there's no rough edges. There's no sharp edges. Everything is really nice on this, and so that's a good thing. You can see some of the other differences in the subdials. So there's 3 on the Dryden. There's 2 on the Hemel. And let me get this one here, because you can see another, this is the Zelos, ZX something something, it's the Meteorite version, but you can see its subdials, it has 3, but they're configured at the 12, 9, and 6. So Hemel has it at the 3 and the 9, and then Dryden does it at the 3, 6, and 9. So it's interesting to see that even with the same movement, you can get many different configurations out of this, and I think that that's pretty cool. And I don't know that I have a favorite. I think that it really just depends on the overall design and aesthetic of the watch. So like in the Hemel, I don't love that it doesn't have a running second hand, and I don't really have a use for that 24-hour indicator, but the overall aesthetic of only having 2 subdials is a little cleaner. It really is. It's kind of like I can appreciate when people say that they don't love a date cutout or the date complication on a watch, because, especially on a dress watch, because it gives it a cleaner look. Only having 2 subdials gives this a cleaner look. Y'all know I did the, the Laurier Gemini, and it was the same way. It was a real clean, the bi-compass look, the 2 subdial look. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting that new Watermelon in from StudioUnderd0g. But just so you can see the options when you're looking at them with these subtle differences. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the pushers, because the pushers, while they're very similar on the Dryden and the Hemel, except for the fact that the Hemel has the cutout pattern on it, you can see that like the Zelos uses like a paddle on it instead of a standard pusher. And so you will see different options on that. And then the other different option that you might be able to see is the crown. Let's see if we can get the crown in there. If I hold that up on the lighter backdrop in the middle, you can see that this has got more of an onion style crown. The Dryden is more of a traditional style. It is a sign crown with a giant D on it. And then the Zelos has this, I don't even know what you would call that shape. It kind of looks like the bottom of a cupcake or a muffin. And so, yeah, let's call it the Muffin crown. But again, it's marked. It might even be loomed. I don't know. But out of the 3 of these, I have to admit that my personal favorite is the onion crown. I love an onion crown. So this Hemel wins it for me. And I will say from a functionality standpoint, maybe the Dryden wins out because it's got better texture and grip and surface area. The Zelos, while it looks really cool, it's not the easiest to grip or use. And so that, in one hand, it makes me appreciate the fact that this is a quartz so that I don't have to use it as often. But I will say, as cool as this looks, the functionality is better on these 2, and the functionality on the Dryden is probably the best. So let me set these down. So this next option is another quartz. It's a Swiss. I don't know what the movement inside of it is, but this one here, you see it does have the date cut out at the 6. It's got 3 subdials, and it has kind of the paddle style pushers like the Zelos did, but they're squared off. Normal crown on here with some good grip. But when I hold this up, I think the thing with the Victorinox is that it's thinner. It is thinner. Now, it also does not have a rotating bezel. And so the sheer fact that this Hemel has a rotating bezel, it's going to make it a little bit bigger. But with that, you can see the kind of the lugs. Overall case shape and whatnot is similar. There's definitely more refinement to this Victorinox. I will admit that as much as I like the onion style crown, I like these pushers maybe the best. These flat ones. I like the paddle ones on the Zelos, but I think I like these maybe the best of all. So if I was designing my own watch, I'd probably do an onion crown, maybe some of these paddle shift or these paddle lever styles. I don't even know what you'd call those. All right, so let's keep the comparisons going. The next one, and this is quite small, it's almost on the verge of dainty. It's kind of a dressy watch chronograph, but it is the Dan Henry. But you'll notice that, again, Seiko, no, I don't know if the Dan Henry has a Seiko moving around. It is a quartz chronograph, I will say that. And you can see it's got the standard kind of pushers on it, which are similar to the Hemel, small crown, but you can see that this movement has a lot of variety. So if you're shopping just because you want a quartz chronograph movement, you've got a ton of options. anything from this kind of diver style with the Dryden and whatnot, the sleeker aviator style of the Zelos ZX series, or you can get a dressy option kind of like this. The Victorinox is probably in the middle of this and the Dryden, so it's a little classy looking but still a little sporty looking. And so yeah, lots of options. I just want to throw these up on the screen. And the last one, well, we're going to look at this last quartz option before I take a couple of looks at some others that you might want to consider that have a different movement. But this is a Swatch, and Swatch has an entire lineup of quartz chronograph watches. Now this one happens to come on a rubber strap. It's super lightweight. Let me get my scale back on. I want to weigh this because this Swatch, you almost don't even know it's there. 41 grams. Now 42 grams. So as a comparison, the lightest G-Shock that I've ever touched is the carbon fiber G-Shock, and it weighs about that same. And so this thing just disappears on wrist. You almost forget it's there because it's so light, and in my opinion, that is a good thing. But with this, you still get the chronograph functionality. You got your normal 3 pushes there. It's a quartz, so you got the battery case on the back. And yeah, definitely a different aesthetic, but they make tons of these Swatch chronographs. So if you want something simple, and most of these Swatches are pretty inexpensive, if you want something inexpensive, you want something that should still be reliable, if you care whether or not the thing says Swiss made, Swatch is part of Swatch Group, which is a Swiss made thing, there's some other options for you. The last two I want to compare it to are really to show you different movements. And so the first one that I'm going to show up, this is a Perpetual watch. And if you look at the back of it here, you can see that it has the seagull, I think it's the 1901 or something, movement in it. So this is a hand wound chronograph, meaning that you do have to wind it every day. Now let me take this off because this, well, let's weigh it real quick while the scale's still on. All right, 92 on the leather. That's really not that bad. Let's weigh out the Valjoux. 106. So it is the heaviest, which I kind of thought it would be. It's also the thickest. We'll talk about that in a second. But this one here, this movement is so beautiful. It just really is. Now, some people talk about the long-term quality or long-term durability of these seagull movements. I've never experienced any problems with mine, but then again, I also don't run mine through any real torture test. I don't even wear mine daily. And so yeah, there's that. But this one is interesting because you do hand wind it every day, and once you get, you know, the hand wind going, then it'll run. It probably has like a 40-hour power reserve or something in there, but now you can see it's kind of ticking away and going. And so this is an interesting option compared to the quartz, because the quartz is of course just going to run until it needs a new battery, and then you'll swap it out. But you can see again, this Perpetual on the left is very dressy style, so kind of like in the same aesthetic that Dan Henry was going for. But you can see this one's a little bit larger. That Dan Henry is like a 38, it's smaller. This one is a 40 or a 42 on this Perpetual, and I really dig this a lot. It's a little thick, right? But overall, the pushers, you can see it too. I don't know if this is also called an onion crown compared to this, but you can see there is slightly different. There's a slightly different shape to it, to where that kind of juts out in more of a triangular shape, and this is more of a bulbous shape. But I really dig this, and this one has a little bit more grip to it, and so that one makes on the Perpetual maybe a little bit more functional. But that's another option. So if you're looking for chronographs, you've got the Mecaquartz here, you've got the hand wound options that you can go with, and then the last one is the automatics. So this, for those of you who don't know, this is one of my absolute favorite keeper watches. It is a custom 1 Zelos ZX chronograph. It does have the Valjoux 7750 movement in there. See, I probably got to take this one off too because it deserves to be seen. So sorry, I'm juggling a little bit here, but let's see if we can get that in there. Skeletonized rotor. This thing is absolutely stunning. And there's only one of these. This is the one. So you'll notice that this one actually has the day-date complication, which the Valjoux movement has, but what Zelos did not put on any of the standard ZX models. There's one other custom one like this that my buddy Dane has, and he's got a video on it. I might be able to link to it down in the description. But just know that you have options. Now, when you get into the automatic chronographs, whether it's the Valjoux or the Seiko, you are upping the price tier. And so the way that it works is probably the lowest priced here are some of these swatches, maybe the Dan Henry, the Victorinox, if you can find them on clearance. Those are going to be lower. The Dryden might be next. It's not quite $300. You can also catch them on sale every now and then. You then see the Hemel here at $450, and then you get up in the ZX series where you're looking at, I don't know, maybe $600-700. Don't quote me on that. I can probably throw a screenshot up of the website so you can see that. Of course, they're all sold out, but you can maybe find one on the secondary market. Check out the Timekeepers group. But then when you step it up to these, you're looking at quite a bit more. I would say 1,000 plus, depending on the design. In fact, the Hemel with the Seiko NE88 automatic chronograph movement, they listed at $1,000 on their website. So you've got lots of options when it comes to it. But all that to say, y'all know sometimes when I do these comparisons, it almost outshines the watch that I'm looking at, right? And in this case, this custom Zelos, it totally outshines this Hemel. But when I'm comparing it to all of these other watches, the Hemel holds up. And as I talked about at the end of my last video, I was interested in seeing this because I'm thinking about getting one of the Air Force limited edition models as a gift for my nephew. And now that I've experienced this, and now that I've put it up to next to a bunch of other watches that I really like and enjoy, I think I'm going to go with the Hemel. So now, of course, he needs to graduate and enlist. So I'm not just going to buy one right yet. This would be a gift for him for both graduation and before he ships out. But yeah, let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. What other chronographs are out there? What do you like? What have you had personal experience with? Do you have any other recommendations? And let me ask you this. Are you aware of any other Air Force specific watches? Because I would be curious to learn of any of those. But I really am digging this Hemel. I really am. All right. With that, y'all, we'll call this one to a close. Until we talk again, please remember what really matters. And that's not watches. Keep the insanity sane.